Welcome to the State of the Union. I'm Jonathan Halabi,
And I'm Arthur Goldstein.
and the news that's been on our minds, big news this week, is about Amy Arundell being removed from the Queensborough office. Arthur, you want to start us off?
I was a little bit surprised because having been a UFT member for almost 40 years and having worked as a chapter leader in a large school for 12 of them, Amy was one of the few very, very competent union leaders, one of the very few. And I and many of us have come to expect great assistance and service from Amy Arundell, and that put her in stark contrast with many others working for the union. So to remove her was shocking, to say the least.
Yeah, I was surprised by it. I was not a Queens chap. You were in Queens. I wasn't in Queens. But I also found that sometimes I'd go to Amy because it was a faster way to get good information or a good answer. And I noticed in the big Facebook group, the one with 30 something thousand, that Amy would often answer random questions from random people from around the city. Um, I I don't know that we had other people who were helpful at that level. Let me change it a little bit. When did you first meet Amy? Do you remember?
Hmm. Yeah, I do remember. I was chapter leader of Francis Lewis High School, and she called me out of the blue, knowing that I was this very anti-UFT Unity blogger, and she demanded that I help place an ATR teacher. Demanded, and I was surprised she even spoke to me because I thought she might be afraid, but she was not afraid, and she said, "This is a super teacher who can't get a job for reasons I won't go into on the podcast." And I managed to get the teacher into the school, and my supervisor agreed with that assessment. And now that teacher is working full time at Francis Lewis High School. One of the best achievements I accomplished as chapter leader, and it was in concert with Amy and my supervisor. We made that happen. So I'm very proud of that, to have been a part of it. But she got the ball rolling. How did you meet her?
So I was a new chapter leader at a brand new High School of American Studies, and this was before Unity had foolishly gotten rid of our seniority transfers, but also our SBO transfers. And Amy was part of the team that trained us on how to write SBO transfers. So we were a school where the administration and the teachers were working together to create a different set of criteria for people to transfer in, but they had to be fair criteria and they had to meet the union rules. And Amy really guided us. She was smart. And she took time and she answered questions. Um, and so that's going back, that's probably 2002. That's a long time. And she did things downtown. I remember being shocked when she came to the Queen's office because her specialty was all this technical stuff, not sort of a managing people thing. Uh, I don't know. Did you know her before she was Queensboro rep?
Yes, she wasn't Queensboro rep when she called me about this ATR teacher, and for years afterward, I mean, after we placed the ATR teacher, I thought, well, okay, this woman owes me, so I would ask her for help with things, and she always obliged. It was never a problem. It was never an issue. She was never too busy to help anybody. And when my DR wasn't available, she often was. So in a crisis, she was who I would go to. She was very knowledgeable, very smart, very helpful. And it's shocking to me that anybody would get rid of somebody like that because, it's it's a real black mark on our union that she stands out for her competence. She should not stand out for her competence. Everybody should be competent, but there are issues with our union bosses, and I call them bosses rather than leaders because that's how they act. And the biggest example is reassigning Amy Arundell from a position she was born to serve and putting her, I mean, I don't know where they put her, but that's where she is now.
I don't know where they put her either. And I know that the members in Queens, and I think the members overall would be better served if she was back in the position she was in. But this idea of we don't have necessarily great leaders. There are people who are competent out there,
Yep.
but there are people who are just loyal. And I, I, I mean, we've talked about some of this before, but um, the appointment of people who are not very good at these jobs, sometimes the easy jobs, so they look like they're okay. Sometimes the hard jobs bearing them in the back is it's a feature of this leadership. And in fact, when somebody is good at their job, we share with each other, you and me, but also other chapter leaders, who you can trust to get a good answer, or who you can trust to actually not just say yes and be sympathetic, but follow up.
Yeah, as chapter leader, I would tell members when they had issues, call UFT, but come back to me if you don't get somebody good, and I will find you somebody good. And quite frequently, they came back to me, and I would go to Amy and say, who's good at answering this or that question? And she would find me good people, competent people. But the fact is, you and I could, but won't, name people who made their way up and are working for the union full time only because of loyalty, not because of competence. We've had these discussions between ourselves, and won't. I don't think we should point out people here, but we could.
Let's talk. Let's not do that now, but let's talk about that because I think that when members are really poorly served, it's a problem, and maybe
Yeah.
that is something that we want to talk about. But yeah, we haven't discussed that in advance, and I don't want to name names on the podcast today.
I'll name one of the people who really is not attuned to member needs, and that would be Michael Mulgrew. Michael Mulgrew, the president of the United Federation of Teachers, who does not encourage member participation in our union. And I think that active discouragement of participation via the orchestrated delegate assembly, in which member concerns are really not even designed. It's not even designed to address member concern. They have an agenda. They push their agenda, and there are a few minutes here and there where somebody might be able to say something, but Mulgrew usually knows who he's going to call on. I mean, it's all choreographed, and that does not encourage member participation. They um, they decide when they want member activism. They want member activism for a contract that doesn't nearly meet inflation, for a contract that rolls back health care, and we're supposed to go out and demand, this um, salary increase that nobody really wants. And further, when somebody says no to the contract, as did our OTPT chapter, and by the way, it is PT month this month. I think August was the month when PTs were told, well, you voted no for our contract, and we're not going to try to improve it. We're just going to send the same thing back to you. And I mean, how discouraged are you if you're an OT or PT and you think you deserve parity with teachers? And instead of trying to get something, anything, they say, oh, well, here's the same old crap, and you're not going to do better, and we're just going to make you vote on it until you say yes. I mean, they folded. But the despair in that chapter has got to be palpable. It's
So,
this is not how you encourage member participation. This is how you kill the soul of activism.
so I think getting member participation, and we can talk in a positive way about this, needs to begin with taking the people who are most likely to be active and encouraging that activity. And in here, they've done something else that's really horrible. And it's not as blatant as overturning a democratic election, which is what they did in the case of the occupational therapists and physical therapists. But I'm talking about chapter leaders. These are the people who are, I mean, you were and I were, we were the people who are most likely to become activists and to get other people because we're in daily contact with our members. Michael Mulgrew certainly isn't, and the borough reps and DRs aren't with the members or with the chapter leaders. But one of the really important ways that chapter leaders were involved was by designating, by choosing, by electing who was going to be district rep. And that was something else where it's Michael Mulgrew's predecessor, Randy Weingarten, used some really lame excuse to instead appoint those district reps. It means that if we're lucky, we had a good district rep. I had a dynamite district rep who was appointed, who would have been elected. But we also had appointed district reps who weren't dynamite, who didn't have our confidence, and who didn't encourage that kind of independent activism. Um, I think the root here is really really important, and it's a common theme. The Unity Caucus has not, in general, encouraged activism, and starting with the most likely people to be activists, they would send us emails demanding that we do stuff,
Yep,
but not because we had talked about it, and certainly the messenger wasn't somebody that we had chosen, which is really important for building up confidence around that. You never voted for a district rep, did you? You were just assigned.
no, I never voted for a district rep. Our district rep was our district rep, and that was it. I've got nothing bad to say about my district rep, but I know of other district reps who were appointed for loyalty, and I'll see them in that group you spoke about defending anything that Michael Mulgrew says they need to defend. And if you have a person who's motivated by loyalty to Michael Mulgrew rather than service to the members, that is a problem. But everybody who works for the United Federation of Teachers serves at the pleasure of the president. And while I do single out Mulgrew, I'll also say that that is a characteristic of the Unity Caucus, the entire Unity Caucus. As we struggle to retain our health care, to keep what we've worked for all these years, I hear from people in Unity, oh, we have private discussions about this and that, but not one single person has raised a voice to say, you know, we can't just dump the retirees into Medicare Advantage, or we shouldn't be looking for something 10% cheaper for a rank and file to save money for Eric Adams, who happens to be our contractual adversary. We should not be working to make things better for Eric Adams. We should be working to make things better for us, and Eric Adams should be fighting us. I mean, that is his job as our adversary.